Start saying hello in the chat. Tell us how you are. Have you got a cup of tea? I've got some kombucha in case anyone thinks I'm drinking cider. It's not, it's kombucha, I promise. So tell us where you are in the chat, and then we'll know that you found the chat, and that's where you'll be dropping your questions. We're going to give people a minute or so to come in. So once everybody's in, we'll make a start. Oh, hello, Rachel. Where are you, Rachel? Can't just say hello. You got to know where you are.
One second, I'll be right back.
Oh, Manchester. Lovely to have you on, Rachel. Hi, Judith. Okay. I think, oh, hello, Barbara, and I love music. And I'm finishing lunch in Edinburgh. Oh, Elizabeth, I hope you had something nice. I had some really awful hummus that spoilt my entire salad. I knew it was going to be strange, and I put it on my dinner anyway, but it was so bad, Justin. I can't even tell you. All right, shall we make a start? Yep. Oh, Barbara. I made my own better and bean hummus. Delicious. Butter. Oh, okay, I think you said I made my own butterbean hummus. It was delicious. Amazing. Okay, we're going to make a start. So welcome everyone to an In Conversation With. My name is Emma Smith. I'm the project manager with Empowered Conversations, and that's a project of Age UK, Salford and Trafford. I'm delighted today to be in conversation with Justin. Justin, thank you for giving us the time to share your research with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, actually, Barbara, who made the butterbean hummus, was the person who had spotted your research. So
okay,
now you've made that connection. If you haven't been to one of these before, I'll give you a little bit of background on the work of Empowered Conversations, and then I'm going to hand over to Justin for his presentation, and we'll make sure there's plenty of time at the end for questions. Within this webinar, Justin's really happy to take questions as he goes along. So if you just drop them into the chat, which you found already, I'm going to pick them up as we go along, and we'll see how that goes. But we'll also leave a little bit of time at the end for any additional questions. Does that all make sense? Brilliant. Okay, so Empowered Conversations empower families affected by dementia to live as well as they can with dementia, and we do that by delivering communication courses. So we have Empowered Conversations and we have Moving Beyond Words. We also work with Dr. Maggie Ellis up at the University of St Andrews to offer adaptive interactions to family caregivers across Greater Manchester. Alongside our communication courses, we offer one-to-one dementia-focused therapeutic support for empowered carers. We do regular webinars like this, and we have 2 monthly carers group. One is a carers voice group, and the other is a bereavement group. So that's the work that we do. We sit within Age UK, Salford and Trafford, but we work across the whole of Greater Manchester. So I think that's all I need to say, Justin. Am I okay to start your presentation?
Yep.
Fantastic. I'm going to hand over to you then, Justin.
Thank you for having me. Today I will be talking about supporting selfhood and connection in couples living with dementia through music. And I'm just I'll do an introduction, very brief introduction, and then I'll introduce a more positive perspective on dementia, looking at the strengths that remain and embodied ways of interacting and how music can draw on these strengths. And then we'll look at strengths in relationships and relational ways of interacting, which have 2 types, the we perspective, I'll talk a little bit about, and then joint agency or doing things together. And then I'll have some final thoughts on my work and the work of my colleagues that I work with. basically, making music together can bring joy, connection, and a sense of togetherness. These are the things that I'm really interested in. As dementia progresses, everyday tasks can become more difficult, and this can put extra pressure on the carer or the caregiving spouse. And changes in the relationship may leave both people feeling less in control. So how do we find ways to give both people opportunities for more control in their relationship? Medicalization, and so looking at a medical view of dementia, how is dementia understood in this way, and what does this mean for music? Most dementia research focuses on finding a cure by studying changes in the brain, and this positively has led to many important discoveries. But it often focuses on what people with dementia can no longer do, and this has a lot of negatives with it. In everyday life, dementia is often seen as a loss of memory, identity, and independence, and this can create fear and stigma. From a medical point of view, music is sometimes seen only as a temporary distraction, but I believe that music can be much more than this. It can connect, comfort, and empower. So how can we really draw on these powerful aspects of music? And part of this takes on taking a more positive perspective, focusing on the strengths and what matters most to people living with dementia and couples living with dementia. Many types of learning and abilities are still possible, especially through movement, routine, and connection. Activities and technologies should build on what people can still do, helping them feel a sense of self and control. When asked, people living with dementia and their carers often say that they want enjoyment, love and support, a sense of purpose, identity, and hope. And so improving memory is not always the top priority. Feeling good and staying connected often matters more to people. So how do we move our work from this just directly improving memory to all these other important aspects of people's lives? For instance, how advanced someone's dementia is not always determining their quality of life. There's many other factors. But many music activities still focus on trying to improve memory or thinking. So I think we need to shift our focus, not that improving memory and thinking is not a positive thing, because it is, but what can we do to give people more joy, meaning, and connection? Because I think these things in themselves have great positives, and they will in themselves then lead to possibly more benefits in memory and thinking. So I think there's a way to move through these meaning ideas, and then that in itself can create other positives. Music and the body, a different way of knowing. So this is, I'm just going to very briefly kind of establish some ideas on embodiment. Embodiment allows us to see that meaning making for people living with dementia changes through the disease progression. And so some things become more rooted in past life history and interactions with others, played out through actions. And this is because dementia can reduce the ability to engage through the use of complex linguistic resources. And so there's an increased reliance on intuitive and embodied ways of engaging. So what does this mean when these kind of things are shifting, when there is this more reliance on intuitive and embodied ways of engaging? I think this is something that I'm really interested in. If we have time for a video, I don't know if audio works on this, Emma. This is just a really powerful video that I like.
I'm not sure, but I can find it on YouTube and have it ready. Try now and see if it'll work.
It's not playing, so it probably won't work. But it will be on YouTube, and maybe people can also watch it on their own. I just think it's a really inspiring thing of this former prima ballerina, and she's in late-stage dementia and isn't very active. But as soon as they put on this piece of music that she would dance to, you can just see her incredible knowledge that she has through the movements. This is somebody who, if we have time at the end, I think it would be great to share the video on YouTube. But I will go through this for now. So something that a lot of people do focus on, and I think it's really important, and I myself am really interested in this, is that music can help bring back personal memories. Music can spark powerful memories, including in people living with Alzheimer's, These memories often come back automatically without needing to intentionally think about them. So they just come to people when they're listening to music. And I see a lot of stories that people bring to me when they're listening to music that has been really important to them in their history. Musical memories are often joyful and social. They're especially often connected to family, friends, and special moments. Music can help people find words more easily and feel more like themselves. And remembering who we are and what we've experienced can help support a sense of identity. And so that's really important. How do we give people identity through music? Just by helping them remember their past selves through the music. But music also matters beyond memory. Music is something that we do, and it's not just something that we remember. We move, we tap, hum, and sway. And all of these actions help us feel present and connected in the moment. Making music also happens in relationships with others, with our surroundings, and with ourselves. These musical moments help express who we are and how we relate to others. And through music, people living with dementia continue to be active, creative, and expressive. And I think that's really important. These are people who continue to contribute to the people around them. And I think this is something that we need to give people opportunities to do. How can we all be contributors? And in past studies, they asked, what do people value in musical activities? And it's shown that it's a sense of accomplishment, feeling connected to others, feeling more like themselves, and being fully immersed in the moment. So these are some of the things that people, when asked, are really interested in kind of supporting through music. And now I'm going to move a bit more into relationships. So first of all, relationships are really important for identity and well-being for both members of the couple. And although both in research and in life, often we're considered who we are as an individual, and that's what's important. But who we are is shaped not just by this independent level, but by our relationships with others. So we're not just a person on our own, but we are a person that has connections. We do things in society. We're always we're never really on our own. So I think these are the things that sometimes we forget about. And so for people living with dementia, connection, communication, and shared activities are often the most valued things. That being said, dementia can put a strain on relationships, but not all couples experience this in the same way. Some couples find ways to adapt by weaving their caring into existing roles and identities. And when care is shared, it can support a sense of us, a we perspective, and it creates a sense of shared strength. So this we feeling, or this shared sense of us, is a sense of self that is shaped by the people around us and not just what we can do on our own. And I think I accidentally copied some things that from the same slide before. So I'm going to skip ahead, where when caring becomes a shared journey, it can strengthen the sense of we and support both partners. And in fact, a number of couples experience their couplehood from this we perspective. They indicate their couplehood as a core aspect of their selfhood, and they experience their sense of self as a we. And that seems to really benefit them. Not that everyone needs to take this on, because every relationship is different, but I think some find this is a really powerful way of kind of managing their way in the world together. And so making music together can strengthen these connections if we're really interested in this we perspective. Enjoying music as a couple can help partners see each other again, and not just as a carer or cared for, but as partners and companions. Group music making can create a feeling of being part of something bigger than themselves, and I think that's really important. These shared moments can bring a sense of belonging and comfort. And when people share parts of themselves through music, it can build empathy and a feeling of inclusion. Admittedly, I'm going quite fast through these slides, so there will be a lot of time for questions. Maybe I should slow down.
Is this the right time to remind people, Justin, that if they want to ask any questions on what they've heard or seen so far, drop them in the chat and I'll pick them up.
Yes, fantastic. Another benefit of this we perspective is that working together can help people stay involved. People living with dementia often manage daily tasks better when doing them with someone. Shared activities can help them stay active and involved in everyday life. But this idea of doing things together is still rarely talked about in research. We still, in research, focus on what the individual is doing on their own and how we can support them as an individual. And so I think it may be important to really open this up to more broader ways of looking at people in their context and not just separated from their context. For instance, many couples already do this without thinking. They're sharing how they prepare meals or how they help each other with hygiene, like shaving or getting dressed. Working together also opens the door to more complex and meaningful activities, like cooking side by side and making music together. So what does this kind of, what do these actions, these complex actions look like, and how can we best support them by thinking about this? For instance, there's this great paper that looked on joint shaving. What is happening really when we look at shaving as a shared activity where people are helping each other. Many times, I think in care home situations, it's people can sometimes move into the aspect of what can I do for this person? Can I shave for them? And so they're taking over the autonomy of this action. And so what does it look like when people are working together? For instance, he has a difficulty in understanding the larger strategies that are involved in shaving now and the goal of shaving. And so his wife supports him by guiding the process and by knowing the overall goal. But he also helps by gently moving his head to show where to shave next and by helping keep his skin taut. So he has a number of still embodied ways that he knows of interacting with a shaver that are still very much there. And so together, they're guiding each other's actions. They have a shared back and forth process, sort of a dance together that they're doing through this shaving. And so this is a powerful example of people that are doing something with each other and not just for one another, or she's not doing it to him, but they're doing it with each other. And so this really shows that supporting someone doesn't need to mean taking over for them, but instead, when doing things together, it can protect their sense of agency and independence so that people feel like they're contributing to this act. And I think that's really important in what they're shown in this. So even in small activities, I think it can be really important in how people make these actions together. This is just kind of the text that I've just been speaking about. And so we can similarly think about sharing our strengths through music. And this may be especially done when thinking on a group level. So what are we doing together? So when we think about playing music, for instance, it's like I'm thinking about the music that I'm making, and I'm thinking about that you're doing your music that you're playing. But really, especially, the music is the thing that we're doing together. So what is the music that sounds all together? So thinking about on the group level can often be really beneficial, rather than thinking entirely about our own parts. We often think of abilities as something that one person has, but in real life, we often think on the group level, sharing our actions and supporting each other. In close relationships, people living with dementia often value being able to give as well as to receive support. So how do we open opportunities for this? Even when abilities differ, many couples strive for a sense of balance in the relationship. So again, how do we support this to happen? In group settings as well, mutual support, what we might call balanced reciprocity, this helps people feel capable and valued. And this is, I think, maybe where music can come in. Musical activities that create space for everyone to contribute often lead to moments of joy and connection, but also music can act as a great equalizer. When people make music together, it can be hard to tell who has dementia and who doesn't. Everyone is part of the moment. And so the being musical so music being an ability that is through its embodied ways of knowing and being really stays with people living with dementia very late into the disease. So really it doesn't affect people. So it's really nice to see how people can really feel that they still have strengths and the benefits that they see from this. Music can also be free from language. Making music doesn't always need words. It can happen through shared habits and actions. And also couples can connect through rhythm, sound, and movement without needing to explain to each other or plan beforehand. And so even in more advanced dementia, people living with dementia can often respond to the beat. And through this, they can show enjoyment. They can express what kinds of music they like, and they can reconnect with memories through how they move to the music. And there's been some really great research on moving in time with others, like tapping, swaying, or clapping, and how this can build a strong sense of togetherness and shared purpose that I think is important. Music is also really open and flexible. It sets up a space where co-creativity can occur. It allows people to kind of fit their own interests and preferences, and through this, it can help them feel in control. Making music together means sharing ideas, creativity, and ways of communicating. And the kind of shared activity can support a sense of self, connection, and well-being. So this is, I think, where it becomes important with music, like just being really receptive to who's there, what types of creativity they want to be involved in, what types of ideas do they want to express, how are they best able to communicate. These are all, I think, important things about the musical activities. It's really just because it is really on an individual basis. And when you are then also dealing with a carer spouse and a person living with dementia, they both also have their ways they like to connect and their ideas that they want to share, the music they like, and how they want to be creative. So it's really often, I think, in music, it's about adapting to the people that you're working with to get the best from them. But I think that's also where music is great, in this openness that it provides to engage with people in so many different ways. Next is early thoughts that I'm having on attachment theory. And this is through connection or secure connection and care. How do we give strong connection, but also make this secure for people? And this is something I'm interested in exploring, because not all strong relationships are good relationships. So strong relationships are at the heart of living well with people living with dementia for both partners. When couples share a secure bond, being close can offer comfort, stability, and strength. But it's also important to recognize that closeness can sometimes tip into codependency, where one or both partners feel overwhelmed or they lose a sense of themselves. And so this is something that I'm currently starting to explore, how we can support the kind of connection that nurtures both people, in that how can we support relationships that are close, but also balanced, that offer support without losing independence, that are emotionally secure without creating emotional strain. And so my goal is to help design musical and relational spaces that encourage healthy, secure closeness, where both partners can feel supported, seen, and strong together. That's something that I'm really just starting to explore. So if people have thoughts or ideas on this, I'd be very happy to discuss them. Some final thoughts. When we think about joint agency, shared perspective, and embodied interaction, we can better plan how to share resources in meaningful ways. And I think that's important in setting up ways to think about how all the different pieces can work together so that we can create these meaningful interactions as best as possible. How can we shape support to match the strengths of people living with dementia so that everyone can feel like they're truly contributing? So there's this idea of balanced reciprocity. How do we get everyone involved in the ways that they can? And how might technology help both partners when they're facing challenges so that they can succeed together? Furthermore, what behind the scenes planning happens in couples interactions, and can technology help support that work? I think that rethinking how we share these tasks and provide support doesn't just make joint action or the doing things together easier. It helps protect each other's sense of self and ability to act. That is basically my presentation. Thank you so much. Oh, and this is the group that I'm part of, the Sheffield Music Dementia Technology team. Oh, that's okay.
All right, I'll bring it back up. I promise. Thank you so much, Justin. We've got our first question in from Judith, and she said, do you think that there's more resistance to the benefit of music from males than females?
In different ways. I think the strongest strongest resistance I'm finding is through early childhood education. So if somebody was told, oh, please don't try to be musical because you're not, which apparently has happened a lot to both, I mean, people in Canada and here in the UK. These are the things that I'm facing that are really strong barriers to people engaging in music. It's that somebody has told them that they're not musical at some point in their life. And so some aspects, I think it's about engaging in certain ways that might not make people think that is a more feminine thing or a masculine thing, so that they can feel like, oh, I am, because there are, I think, older people that like, I want to do something that fits me or fits my identity. And there is, I think, fear of losing identity or yes, missing their identity in people living with dementia.
Thank you for that. You just took me back to a childhood memory of being at school when I was told that I couldn't sing. And
so many people.
It took me about 30 years, only when I had my own child, that I started to sing again. Other than that, I just mime constantly.
That's horrible.
I know. I'm going to get back. Okay, let's see. Elizabeth said, Laura said, music is so powerful. It definitely helps in couples bonding on an emotional level.
Yeah.
Laura, tell us more about that. Elizabeth said, what are your first thoughts on creating close, strong, yet healthy connections? My sense is that if relationships were unhealthy before illness, the illness is likely to make that worse. Or do you think that can change? I work for a dementia music charity, just for info. Thanks, Liz.
I think research does support this view that if relationships were unhealthy before, that trying to move straight into this stronger relationship is going to create more unhealthy ways of being codependent. So that's one of the reasons why I think I'm really interested in how do we, especially for the relationships that were unhealthy, how do we not just try and force them into thinking as the caring partner, you're the person who has to take, like, your role now is caring for them, which is really unhealthy. Like, they need to feel like I'm a person who is caring for my partner, but I'm also a person who does other things. And so if the more somebody's identity becomes that either of I am a person that is being cared for or I am a carer, these are really problematic. People need to have more richer identities. And I think, yes, especially if the relationship wasn't strong before, I think it yeah.
And Justin, are we thinking, when thinking about a couple, not just a husband and wife, it could be a mother and a daughter?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's that.
Yeah,
the two people in whatever relationship.
I was thinking more couples because they have longer history together, and it's just easier to study because crystallized knowledge, so older memories are stored, and so they're stored by both people, and so it's a nice way to just study how memory works in couples that have been together for a long time. But I mean, even in spouses, many are haven't been married that long, like they've met later in life, and so they don't fit this idea. And there are so many situations where it's even, for instance, women more often have dementia than men, but they have it later, and often, for instance, their spouse has already passed away, but they have these fantastic relationships with other women. They form these groups of people that are really empowering each other. And so I think to just focus on traditional couples, we're missing out on a lot.
Thank you. Rachel said, so I live in Manchester and my mom lives in Wales. We use an Alexa with a screen so she can see me. Also finds this easier than using a phone. So
Yes.
You've got that interaction.
Yeah. I am going to soon start working on a project which is very much about using the history of the phone and the ringing sound of the phone to connect people, but also not having it be a phone, because that is complicated, especially because we have smartphones and everything, and it's not intuitive with people's histories of people living with dementia. We want to draw on more on their histories. How do we allow people to draw on this kind of embodied knowledge that they've used their whole life of answering a phone? And yeah.
And Rachel, tell us a bit more about using Alexa.
Yeah.
So do you use music when you're connecting with mum? So it's not just the two of you chatting, are you using music as well? And while you're answering that question, Barbara said, can you give us some examples of what you see as musical activity in this context?
Yes. So we here in Sheffield have two activities that we largely do. One that's more reminiscence based. It's something that I was doing previously in Canada, which is, I don't have them with me here, music boxes. So if you know the 19th century music box where you spin it and it has these little metal things that the metal comb that go like boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I've taken that idea and made it electronic, where you actually get pop music, important pop music from their history. And so what I've done also is separate it so that one person is playing the role of the singer and the other person is playing the role of the band. And so it's about playing the music together by spinning. So as you spin, the music goes faster, the faster you spin, and then slower when you slow down. And so it's about making this activity where people feel in control of the music because they are controlling the speed and whether the music is on or off. And it's something to do together. And it is often this activity that brings a lot of reminiscence through these activities, if you choose the right music. And separately, we found this other thing, which is based on the idea of a mixing desk. So you're mixing the levels of the music. All you're controlling is whether the piano part is loud or the guitar part is loud or the vocal part is loud. But it allows people to really change the emotions in the music by what is louder and what is softer. And so that is allowing people to be creative in simple ways, but really powerful ways. So I think we try and separate in a way the more ways of being, how do we be creative with each other and how do we reminisce with each other? I think it's very possible to do both things, but for the moment, we're more separating them into creative activities and more reminiscence activities.
And is that something that they're sort of taking away, they're doing at home, or are they just doing it when they're in the university?
So we have been doing it mainly at dementia cafes, which there is quite a number of great ones in Sheffield area. But the goal is to, yes, provide these for people in their homes. And the mixing desk analogy is actually moving towards commercialization. The music boxes, anything reminiscence based, which has copyright issues, is always going to be harder and take longer to do.
It feels that there's a plethora of music options out there, isn't there? You know, in terms of, so I suppose in Greater Manchester, we've got Manchester Camerata offering sort of those live sessions around music. We've got loads of online resources. We've got Playlists for Life. You know, there's so many things around music. So it's brilliant. This is going to be an additional thing.
Yeah.
Judith said, do you find that when people maybe become disinhibited, they're more open to expressing their feelings that can emerge through music and movement?
Yes. So one of the things that we found early in our research here is provide success early. So we found that if people fail at a musical activity that they're involved in, like doing, they really stop engaging. So, but when we provide an early success, then mistakes no longer seem like they're their fault. Like it's just something that happens. So it is, I think it's just like giving people the confidence initially, and then people are much more open to being creative and disinhibited. I think that's something we found very strongly.
And can you ever make mistakes with music?
No, but people feel like they can. So when you're working with technology can also misbehave. And so people will feel like, oh no, I did this. This is my fault. I made a mistake. And so just trying to set it up especially initially, that there are, well, even saying there are no mistakes doesn't like seem to yeah, people don't believe it. So just setting up the success early, I think, is really important.
And just so I've got it in my head. So, you're working in these dementia cafes. Is that at a group level, or are you working with couples at the
We've
dementia cafe?
done both. So we have some settings where it is just people are around a large table, or they're around a large group. And that provides its own kind of atmosphere. And then we have done it where we have kind of it as a tea trolley that we move through the cafe and we go table by table. And so then it's more like on a couple level. And it really is different. So you have to kind of engage in different ways depending on how you're aiming to do the activity.
I wonder if you've got a couple of examples that you can draw to mind of like couples that you've worked with in this way, and like sort of the difference that you've seen.
Yeah. First of all, it is so important for the carer. So either I've seen situations where, for instance, the son or daughter is with their parent and them using one of the devices that we use, just seeing how they are competent and confident again. I think it really brings joy for the other person being like, oh, I'm really happy that I get to see this side of my mom or dad again. I think that's really powerful. And similarly with spouses, just getting to see, getting to see them again, I think is really important. And I think in the larger group settings, what's so nice that I've seen is that everyone is so supportive of each other that it really creates this wonderful atmosphere where it's just like it's one-upping each other, and it's really becomes a really joyful situation for the whole room.
How do you decide on the music that you're going to play? Because if you're working across a dementia cafe, I might like the Eagles or
Yep.
Michael Jackson. Like, how do you know what it is that I like?
So what we've done is for the music boxes that use specific songs, is all the songs on the devices, because they have to be set up beforehand, have been chosen by people living with dementia. So I haven't chosen any of the songs. It's been somebody before that I said, oh, I really wish you had this song or that song on it. And we of course don't have all the songs, but just by talking to their peers, we more often have, at least, if not the right song, a really good song that people enjoy.
Nice. Okay, so we've had some comments. Rachel said, yes, definitely. She doesn't always know who I am, but she knows that I'm in the family. And that the good thing about, where have you gone? The good thing about using Alexa is we can play music she likes, and the words also come up on it.
Oh, great.
She also thinks I'm there with her.
Oh, fantastic.
And then Elizabeth said, I see couples where music is so key to day-to-day life. For example, they dance into the shower when the person doesn't want to go, or they come together to our choirs and tell us they don't know what they do without that shared activity. It's like a kind of respite hour or two. I also see couples, adult daughters, sons with parents or spouses who really struggle in their relationship, whatever the music.
Yeah. Yes, I don't, and it is difficult. Well, I will say, first of all, not everyone loves music. I have had people come to me and say, oh, my father, he doesn't listen to music, and if only I could get him to listen to music now. And the question is, like, did he like music before? And she was like, no, he doesn't. So people are not going to suddenly enjoy music more. I think it's especially useful for people who used to like music. It's just that a lot of people do like music, and so continuing into dementia is something. I have definitely talked to a lot of people, also care staff, creating a sense of trust by singing together, because, for instance, showers are a very vulnerable situation, and so any type of thing that can build trust and used properly, I think, are useful.
I think sometimes music is seen as a magic bullet,
Yes,
like,
yes.
Put the music on. Someone said, put the music on. They won't do this. Put the music on. Let's do some reminiscence with music. And actually, it'll only go so far. It's fantastic, but it's not the fix 24/7. And
And it shouldn't be. And also, when people talk about music as magic, then of course it kind of devalues all the hard work that people do into setting up the music properly. It's just like, oh, any kind of music, any kind of setting, it's going to work. Whereas people have really considered hard how to set up musical activities or supportive music listening or musical activities that to make them work well. So we need to, finding ways to support good music directions.
It's a tool. It's not a magic fix
Exactly.
all, and it
Yes.
has to be used in that way as a tool. Where
Yes.
you've done the work before, deliver the sessions,
Yes.
and the work after. You know, you're not just
Yeah.
going to put, can't just put Kylie Minogue on because 4 people are crying and that's going to make everything okay. It's not going to make everything okay. Barbara said, what are your thoughts on using music, particularly singing, as a tool to aid communication? I very strongly found that my mother understood me when I sang the words to her rather than spoke. I don't believe there is any research on this, or I certainly haven't found any.
I also don't know this research. I can fully believe it's possible. So, of course, people with, I'm forgetting the name of the condition, where people lose the ability to speak themselves, but they can sing. And so very possibly, and some people with dementia do have this condition. And so I can totally see how your mother would respond to this. Also, I think in music, often the emotions of what's being said is being conveyed more clearly than in words themselves. And so even if some of the finer details of what's being spoken, or it's just another way to support the meaning of what's being said. So as I gesture, I'm supporting what I'm saying through my actions and how I'm moving, but also through singing, you can, I think, support kind of the message that's being said through the musical aspects as well as the words that are being said.
Yeah,
but yes, I don't know any research on this.
I feel like we need some research on this, Justin.
Yes, I'll find somebody.
Or just do it. Just do that piece of work.
Right.
Add it to the list. So Barbara has added to say she would often sing her an instruction and she's more easily able to follow that instruction. So a little bit like what Elizabeth has said about where music is so key for day-to-day care. So sort of dancing into the shower when a person might not be so keen to have a shower. Oh, now Amanda and Barbara are chatting to one another as well. That's lovely. They do actually work together. They could chat to each other at any time. Okay. Oh, and Elizabeth sent us a video. Thank you. We'll check that and I'll share that out. Thanks for putting that in, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we've got another 15 minutes. If you have any more questions for Justin or thoughts, then please do pop them in the chat. Otherwise, it will be a very efficient and short webinar.
Well, we could do. Can we show the video now from the YouTube for the YouTube of the dancer?
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm just checking the sounds coming through.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. However many times you
Yeah.
watch that is so powerful.
I know, I agree.
And just that
And
encouragement, at the beginning, and he
yes,
encourages, doesn't he? And he just
yeah,
gives her a kiss, and she almost dismisses it like she's not going to do it, and then
yeah,
a little kiss,
totally.
and then he does it.
And then she remembers everything. Yeah, that's incredible.
It is. And then at the end, she's just like, and then she's had enough.
Yes, yes.
But for her, and I suppose it in a way, it's fantastic having videos like that on YouTube. But I think it does reinforce that magic bullet idea that music can fix everything. And obviously for her, music was so important. And you can see the embodiment happening in front of her eyes, but it's not that magic bullet.
Yep, fully agree.
Rachel said, I'd just like to thank you. This has given me something to think about with my mom, instead of just doing it involving him. Instead of just doing involving her more. Definitely, Rachel. I don't know. I think, have you been on the Empowered Conversations course and Moving Beyond Words as well? That might be helpful. And Elizabeth said, we have a Zoom choir of interest. For your mum, if it's of interest for your mum. Well, that's fantastic.
Great. Yeah.
That's a nice connection happening right now.
Fantastic.
Any other thoughts for Justin?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thanks for putting that in, Barbara. So Barbara is one of she's our facilitator with Empowered Conversations, and her and a few colleagues developed the Moving Beyond Words course.
Nice.
So bringing her own experience in massively within that course.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, that course.
Well, I feel like we need to continue the conversation after this webinar, Justin, and think, well, not literally after, because I'm off to get my hair cut, but let's continue having the conversation and look for those opportunities where we can work together, or share our work with you, and vice versa. That would be amazing.
Yes, please. That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, I feel that we're at the thank you stage. Thank you so much, Justin. It was really great. It was fantastic to find out more about your research, Justin. It feels like there's so much, just those little tasters that you gave us at the end of what's next. It feels like there's a ton of work that you're busy with. What are you most excited about for the next year? What piece of work?
Well, I am soon, unfortunately, leaving here. I'm moving to Australia to work on a new technology that will look at connecting family members. So it is this idea based around this telephone. How do we build on resources that people have kind of in their crystallized knowledge and their embodied ways of interacting, and how do we allow people to use that as reminders, ways to connect to family, and maintain independence longer. So that's one of the big projects that I'm looking forward to upcoming.
Now, the time zone's not great for us in Australia, Justin, but it has been done. It is we can do webinars still, so don't worry. Either it's a late one or an early one. Well, we wish you luck with that, and thank you so much for giving your time today. Hope you've enjoyed the webinar today, everyone. Everyone's saying thank you. Oh yeah, Amanda says you'll have to come back and tell us more about that project.
Yes.
Amazing. Definitely. Thank you so much, Justin, and thanks everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.